Hi, I'm Mash Bonigala, brand strategist. All right, so the recession seems to be right around the corner. In fact, a lot of authorities and websites and gurus are saying that the recession is already here. So what does it mean? It just means that the economy is slowing down, right? So the pandemic, the trillions of dollars pumped into the economy by the government, and of course, a natural kind of slowing down of the economy. All these contribute to that recession. What does that mean for your business? If you're selling a product, a service, it just means that if the economy slows, people are reluctant to spend money, which means, of course, your sales and revenue are gonna get affected. So I wanted to create a video and talk about 20 things that you can do to sort of recession-proof your business or to get your business and brand ready for the recession. All right, let's jump straight in. The first thing you need to do is really cut down on non-essential expenses. Now, what is essential and what is not is, it's a tricky question. But you need to look at it from the perspective of what would I do in the recession, right? So if sales dry up, if revenue falls, what would I do? Would I be spending on this? Is it essential for keeping my business afloat, for survival, basically? So a few different things that you could cut down your expenses on are things like, software subscriptions. If you have several different subscriptions for your sales, marketing, for social media management, for content generation, for your website, for traffic, things like that, maybe you can consolidate all that. You can find a service that consolidates the main features that you need. Because a lot of these subscriptions have features that you may not be using at all, right? They're probably a little bit of an overkill. So you could either find a service that brings together the features that you need, or in the service that you already have, maybe you can downgrade, right? That amounts to substantial savings. You could also save money on your workspace, your lease. If you have an office, if you have a studio workspace, if you're leasing it out, think of what you can do. Maybe you can go remote. Another thing that you can look at reducing the expense is business travel. If you're traveling for business, then you can reduce up to 30% on business travel if you plan early, if you plan in detail. A lot of the business expenses on travel is because of lack of planning. At least that's what I, came to recognize. I do a lot of travel for business, meeting potential partners, and through my incubator, I go and meet founders, startup founders, to evaluate if they're a good fit, if our incubator can invest in them. And during that time, I find that haphazard and last-minute kind of travel is very expensive, right? So you can cut down on that. Now, there are lots of things that you can cut down on, but there are things that you should not cut down on. In fact, we're coming to the second point. You should increase your spend on marketing and advertising. A lot of business owners, the first thing that they cut when things are going bad in their business or if there's a recession is their marketing and advertising spend, right? Because somehow they feel that marketing is an expense that they can do without. That is completely wrong. In fact, you should do the exact opposite. When everybody else is cutting down on marketing spend, you should increase the budget of your marketing and advertising. I don't know the logic behind cutting down on marketing, because marketing is what sets your brand out there in the minds of your target audience. And advertising is, it brings that right kind of audience to the end of that sales funnel, right? And by cutting down on marketing and advertising, what do they hope to gain? You know what? I'm not even going to try and justify what those people may be thinking. But you're not going to do that, right? You're not going to cut down on your marketing and advertising spend budget, right? In fact, you're going to increase that. Not randomly, of course. Just because you got to increase it doesn't mean you go and throw money, good money after bad. You got to analyze your marketing and your advertising and say, is my dollar being put to good use, right? What is the return on investment? And you may have a situation where you're putting, $1 into your marketing or advertising and you're taking out $2. That may be good during, good times. But as we head into recession, you need to be much more strategic about your marketing and advertising. And there are a few more points that I'm going to touch upon in the rest of the video that play back into this concept. Okay, the next one. Figure out bottlenecks in your business, right? You need to figure out the bottlenecks in your business. Typically, the biggest one would be getting leads that convert. Analyze how you're getting your leads. Identify the weak points of that funnel. Could that chain break when the recession knocks on your door? What is the weakest link? So where you're getting your leads from, what is the cost of acquisition? Do you have a lead pool with a steady supply of targeted leads? These are the kind of questions you need to ask yourself. Consider the channels that you're marketing and the quality of the leads you're getting from those channels, so that you can set up a benchmark to try and figure out what can be improved or changed. Review your sales pitches to ensure there is no friction. So bottleneck, it's a favorite topic of mine because businesses don't progress. They don't increase their revenue because of bottlenecks. And bottlenecks can be different kinds. The biggest one is, of course, leads, because every business needs leads that convert into sales and revenue. A lot of people say, oh, no, what we need is revenue. Yes, that is true. But what you need are leads that convert into revenue, right? The difference is very subtle, very nuanced. But the way you think about leads and revenue, that is where the real kind of meat of the matter is. If you just think of revenue, that's good for goal setting, right? And that's one of the points I'm going to talk about, goal setting. But you got to look at the quality of leads. You constantly have to, you got to really, really dig deep into the quality of leads. I am appalled. I am surprised. I am flabbergasted at the amount of business owners, founders, entrepreneurs that don't really think about the quality of their leads. So they have $1,000. They put that into Facebook advertising, and then they look at their metrics. They got, I don't know, X amount of CPMs, visitors, maybe engagement, a few clicks, a few likes. It does not matter. What really matters is what kind of conversions did you have on that campaign. That is important. That determines the quality of leads you're getting. That determines how many of those leads convert. What is your cost of acquisition of those conversions, right? So let's say you could, LinkedIn, for example, very, very, very notorious at bad conversion. You could boost a post and, forget about revenue for, let's say, a particular kind of engagement. And you might actually end up looking at your metrics where you end up paying $6 for a view or something like that, something crazy, right? That is just ridiculous. But looking at revenue from the perspective of leads is, again, what it boils down to, right? So find out what the bottlenecks are. Find out where your weakest link is in your entire sales funnel. Is it the messaging? Is it the branding? Is it the advertising? Is it the offer? No, we're going to talk about all those points in detail now. All right, next. Reimagine your brand strategy and positioning. During a recession, the mindset and the thought process of your target audience will change. You must understand if your current brand positioning strategy would stand up to the changing audience sentiment. If you're too close to your strategy and cannot figure that out, then hire someone who can. This is one expense that is not an expense, right? So evaluate your customer avatars and buyer personas to ensure they reflect the changing emotion. Work on clarifying and simplifying your brand story to align with the audience. Ensure your brand messaging is on point and serves the brand positioning. So what does this mean? It means that you got to rethink your brand strategy and your positioning. Let's say you position yourself in a particular way. Let's say you positioned yourself as, I don't know, the leading brand in a particular niche. Now, when the recession comes knocking on the door, would that positioning still hold water? And the reason is because the mindset of your target audience would change during a recession. They're much more cautious. They are holding on to their purses. They don't want to spend money. So does your kind of claim to be the leader, does that still work? Does that still motivate your buyers to spend money, right? To buy from you. Because positioning is nothing but that mind share, that mind positioning, right? Positioning is nothing but the mind positioning. It's the mind share. It's how your audience perceives your brand. That is what positioning is. And when their emotions change, when their attitudes change, then your positioning also has to be tweaked to sort of align with that. So for that, you need to, of course, already, I'm sure you, and I keep on, rambling on and on about customer avatars and buyer personas in a lot of my videos, right? I am obsessed with that because that is where the story starts. That is where your brand story begins. You cannot have a brand story, you cannot have a positioning without really understanding who your target audience is. Your target audience is where it all starts. Understanding and creating that buyer personas, creating that audience avatars, understanding the psychographics. What makes them tick? What are they thinking about? What do they care about? What do they not care about? What motivates them? What inspires them? What do they do on a daily basis? That is what you should be looking at. So to understand what the recession is doing to your audience, you need to reevaluate your buyer personas. You need to make sure you understand what they're thinking at this moment so that you can then look at your brand position and say, does my positioning still make sense to this audience? Okay, next, audit your message to its core, right? So if your current message is working well, it may not work so well during a recession. Your audience may be more receptive to a different kind of messaging. Figure this out. Do not continue with the same messaging that worked during the boom. So following on from the brand strategy and positioning is the messaging, because your messaging is created, it's crafted based on your positioning. Now, you need to audit your brand messaging. Does your message still make sense to the audience that are worried about the recession, right? They're okay. Now, I assume you're solving a problem for your audience, right? Your service or your product is solving a problem for your audience. During a recession, that problem may, in fact, the gravity of that problem, the seriousness of that problem may go up or it may go down, right? Things that people care about and think it's a problem during good times may not be a problem during bad times, because money and having that money or the lack of becomes a bigger problem. So that's when a lot of the businesses out there struggle and suffer, because the problem they're solving may not be a problem anymore. And businesses that continue to message to that problem will fail. So, okay, of course, you need to go back and maybe fix your solution to the problem. So you're reframing the problem, and therefore your solution may have to be different, or maybe not. Maybe your messaging has to be reframed, because when you change the frame of reference of the problem, you then connect with your audience. So audit your message to its core. Next, rethink your core offers. So you got your positioning strategy, you got your message, which is of course the brand story and all that, right? And your message actually points to, or to some degree leads to, your offer, your core offers, because that is how a funnel is built up. Now, you got to sort of rethink your core offers. Identify how the weak points of your sales funnel affect the conversion rate. Your offers may need to be tweaked or even changed completely to accommodate the change to the positioning strategy, the messaging, and the sales funnel. Do not be afraid to drop unprofitable products or services. Okay, an offer is very critical, right? So in this entire process, your offer is very critical. A lot of businesses may have great positioning, they have great messaging, and then they have a sales funnel, a good sales funnel. But when the audience are face to face with their offers, that's where the chain breaks. That is their weakest link. So you need to understand if your offers are the weakest link. Are they still effective when your audience is, concerned with not spending money, right? They're worried about the recession. Does your offer still hold up? Your offer has to be irresistible. It has to be a no-brainer, right? So evaluate your offers. And if you're having multiple offers, multiple services, multiple products, this is the great time to actually prioritize them. Look at your offers and Focus on the ones that are the most profitable and the ones that are most effective, right? And don't be afraid to cut out offers and services and products that just may not be a good fit during a recession. Okay, next one. Of course, when you talk about offers, you got to talk about your pricing. Tweak your pricing. When you tweak or change your core offers, it is a good opportunity to figure out your pricing. A recession does not necessarily mean you have to reduce your prices. It depends on your brand strategy and positioning. Sometimes, when the times are tough, the answer may be to target high-ticket clients and increase your prices. That's why understanding your audience is paramount. And then figuring out your position is critical. And then working on your messaging and so on. So your pricing, of course, is a very critical factor in bad times. It's a critical factor in good times, but when everybody has a lot of money, everybody is in a buying mode, then you know what? Bad pricing may not affect you badly. Yeah, you may have opportunity costs. So if you are pricing above the market and or above the value you're offering, you may still be getting a lot of sales because people have a lot of money to spend. Or maybe you're actually underpricing yourself, but you're okay. Your company is profitable because a lot of people are buying it. What happens when there's a recession? Your pricing then becomes critical. Now, typically, 90%, maybe 95% of businesses, founders, what do? They actually reduce their pricings in response to an upcoming recession or a recession that is manifesting, right? Because the thought process is that people don't have money. So if we reduce our prices, they will continue buying. Yes, it may, but that is only for a certain kind of products and services, the essential ones, right? Toilet paper during a recession, people still got to buy that. And therefore, yes, they will buy yours if you reduce your prices as opposed to your competitors, even by a few cents, right? Yes. But what about if you're a consultant, a financial consultant, if you're a coach, if you're a copywriter, if you're selling, I don't know, luxury holidays, if you're, for anything else that is non-essential, pricing, even if you reduce your pricing, doesn't mean you're going to get sales because you're missing the point. If your product or service, if your offer is not aligning with the problem, with the perceived problem that your target audience has, then even sometimes offering it free, you're not going to get any takers. Okay. So, but more importantly, you need to think very strategically and say, okay, who do I target? What is my pricing going to be? Because sometimes targeting high ticket kind of clients for high ticket offers with high ticket pricing may be the way to go. And we did this in our agency. We did this last recession when the rest of the industry was actually scrambling to reduce the prices and they were undercutting each other. We actually completely walked away from that cesspool, from that war. And we had to, of course, figure out a value ladder, right? What is the value we're providing? And instead of just reducing prices for the same value, we actually thought, how can we reframe this? And therefore, we looked at our target audience and we figured out what they would really care about during a recession, with reference to what we offer, of course, and how can we make our product or service essential, or at least perceived essential. And that's what we did. And we actually increased our prices. We doubled our prices, tripled our prices. And guess what? We were able to maintain the revenue levels. And in fact, when you maintain your revenue levels with high ticket offers, then of course your profits go up. Because if you maintain your revenue levels by reducing your prices, your overhead goes up, your cost of sales goes up, your cost of operations go up, everything goes up, but your margins go down. Therefore, in fact, you may actually be getting damaged by reducing your prices. Okay, you know what? Listen, if you have watched any of my videos in the past, you know that I'm passionate about pricing, revenue, because I believe that is where the entire crux of business success lies. So this video is about recession-proofing your business. And I know pricing is hijacking this whole thing. I'm talking way too long about pricing. So I'm gonna stop there, but I've created a ton of videos on pricing and the psychology behind it. I would suggest you take a look at them. Okay, next. Target the right customers. Think of the 80-20 principle. typically 80% of your revenue is generated by 20% of your customers. Now, this is typically, maybe not in your particular case, but this is the average generally. Ensure that your positioning, your messaging, your core offers, your pricing, and your sales funnel are all tuned to target the 20% high ticket customers or 20% of your best customers, right? Okay, so what does this mean? It means that if you have only one service or one product with one price point, yeah, this may not apply much to you because 100% of your revenue comes from one particular product or service. But if you have multiple services, if you have multiple offers, if you have multiple products, then you may find that 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. And that core customers, that 20%, they are the high ticket customers. They're probably buying your most profitable or the most expensive of your products or services. So during a recession, you need to focus on that audience, because typically that audience would be less affected by the recession than your bottom 80% audience who are price conscious, who are maybe already struggling to buy your product or service. So if they're already struggling during a good time, they're not going to buy from you during a bad time. So focus on the 20%. Reposition your messaging, your whole sales funnel, your marketing, and target that 20%. All right, next, fire your bad customers. I made a separate video on firing your bad customers, but here, what I want to say is it follows from the previous point. 80% of your customer service issues may be due to 20% of your customers. Only 20%. They're the problem clients, right? It could be, give or take. So to ensure you focus on your best customers and allocate precious resources to pricing the best services you can, fire your bad customers. You do not want to waste any time on unreasonable or the wrong type of customers. Now, am I being harsh? I don't think so. This is business. This is about survival. This is about growth. This is about thriving. People depend on you, your employees, your good customers, your family members, your friends. You depend on yourself for running a successful business. It's your duty to run a successful business. And you got to do whatever it takes ethically, of course, within the law and morally to run a successful business. And that means firing your bad customers. The customers that take up 80% of your customer service time, they make you dread, picking up the phone or looking at your service emails. Fire those customers straight off the bat. And do not pick any more of that kind of customers. Okay, the next one, come up with systems. To optimize each part of your business, you must come up with systems that can be tweaked to become efficient. What does systems mean? Look at the operations of your business. Look at the sales funnel. Look at what happens during the sales process. Look at the order process. Look at then what happens after the order process. And then the fulfillment process, where if it's a product, you're shipping out that product. And post-fulfillment, so the client gets that product, they open the package, they're using that product, and then customer service. All those processes. Or if it's a service, then onboarding your client, making sure they don't have a buyer's remorse, all these things. Look at each of these steps. How are you doing? What are you doing? What amount of time are you spending on each of these steps? Is there a way you can come up with a system to optimize it so that you save time, or maybe you save money, or you enhance the experience of that step? You reduce friction so that your customers, they're happy and they start to become fans, right? So that is what systems mean. To give you an example, let's say that you are selling a product, you're selling it online, and then the order comes in, somebody has paid for it, the order comes in, and then you manually do something. Maybe you manually change the status at the back end of the order process, and you manually enter an email address in your shipping label software, whatever, right? Maybe there's an opportunity here to find a system or create one that automates this process so that you don't have to manually input anything. So it comes in, the status changes, the address is sent to the email, the shipping label or whatever, and then it gets printed. Just a rough example, but you get what I mean. Okay, next, be flexible to pivot if required. Don't let pride, stubbornness, or tradition get in the way of survival. I read this from the CEO of this awesome startup called Fractured, right? You can find them on fracturedme.com. And these guys print the photos that you upload onto glass, and they look stunning. So anyway, their CEO said this: don't let pride, stubbornness, or tradition get in the way of survival. Be ready to try everything and pivot if needed to go with something that is completely outside your comfort zone. Remember, success is usually all down to how you think about things. I posted a video recently about thinking and the importance of thinking, and whether you're really thinking or not, and why most people don't think. And this point is exactly about that, right? So you got to be able to think outside the box. You got to be able to be flexible to accept thinking outside the box and trying different things, because this is about survival. And if you find that you discover something and you need to change anything, including your service or your product, right? If it's not a product market fit, if it's not going to work out during the recession, then put it away. Find another service or product that can take its place. And do not be afraid to come out of your comfort zone. In fact, kick the comfort zone to the curb, because your comfort zone is your biggest enemy, right? So be flexible to pivot if required. Let it go. Let it go. You don't have to completely give up. Push it to the side. Put your focus, because where your energy goes, where your mind goes, your energy goes, and where your energy goes, that's where success is. So focus your mind on those things that make sense now, that will move the needle, that your target audience care about, that they will buy, right? It doesn't matter if you've had a successful product or service that's been, going well for so many years. Doesn't matter. And no pride. And don't be stubborn. Be willing to put it aside and pick something up that might make sense right now for the next year, 18 months, 2 years. All right. The next one. Turn up the heat on your customer service. You should be obsessed with customer service at any time, but more so during a recession, when getting customers may be difficult. Nurturing existing customers to create either repeat sales, that is, if your product or service can be bought again and again, or word of mouth marketing for your brand. Turn your customers into fans through your customer service. Okay, so this is a no-brainer, and it's not just about the recession. It's about any time. You got to be obsessed with customer service, but more so during recession, right? So, and this goes back to your systems, because if you fix your systems, if you create a system, if you discover or invent a system that optimizes, that removes friction, let's say during the sales process, during the order process. You know what? It's one of my pet peeves. Is recently I was trying to book a restaurant reservation, right? So I wanted to book a table, a dinner for two for me and my wife. And you know what? The form had an address that I needed to fill out. Why? Why do you want to know my address, right? Why do I have to give my address when I'm booking a table for two in your restaurant? And there's a phone number. Okay, phone number, I get it. You book, you make a reservation, but the phone number had a country code that I needed to choose. What are you talking about? Who is going to order, or who's going to reserve a table from across the, right? So it was alphabetical, and I had to scroll down and down and down. And I mean, okay, those are friction points, right? Remove those friction points. If you don't need something on that field during the order process, don't ask the client for it. Don't ask for their birthday if you don't need it. Don't ask for even their address if you don't need to ship anything. You may need to ask for their billing address, but even then, figure out if your order process, if your payment gateway, let's say it's like Stripe or PayPal, if they need only the zip code or the postcode to verify the transaction, then ask the client only for that, right? No need of the address, no need of the full address, and so on. Okay, so turn the heat up on your customer service. The next one, look at multiple channels of revenue. Now would be a great time to see if you can diversify your revenue streams. It takes time to get an idea and pursue it before it starts making money. And the earlier you put thought into these ideas, the better. So it just means diversifying. And it goes back to, of course, the idea of pivoting and being flexible. Because when you're flexible, you look around, you should find alternate streams of revenue. This goes against the idea of focusing. And I do agree that there is a bit of a paradox here. Because when times are going to be bad, you're advised to focus on one single thing and do the best you can and provide the best service or product and so on. But at the same time, I'm advising here that you need to look around and find alternate means of revenue. Now, the paradox exists, but there is no other alternative for this. You got to do this. You got to focus, of course, but you also got to find alternate streams of revenue because you cannot put your eggs in one basket. You cannot do that. Okay. Next one, create a 6 months buffer. If possible, try and shore up enough money to cover 6 months of expenses and marketing budget. If you can do 6 months, then try to have at least a 3 months buffer. This will help with cash flow during tricky months. Now, this cannot be overstated. And this is where, a lot of the businesses get filtered out and they're going to shut down. They're going to go out of business during recession. In fact, even during good times, but more so during recession. Not having a buffer is your biggest enemy. It is the worst thing you can do to your business, not having a buffer. And I've worked with founders, I coach business founders and business owners on how to strategize and things like that, right? How to take their business to the next level. And one of the first things I do is really work with them on this issue. Of course, I work on revenue goals and all, but this one is a very important one. It's much more important even than strategy. Some of the founders I work with, they're slightly disappointed when I don't jump into brand strategy and positioning right off the bat in the first couple of workshops. Because I talk about this. First thing you need to do is build a buffer. And when times are good, when things are going well, your business is doing well, that's when you need to start building up that buffer, right? Of course, you need to spend on marketing and all, but you need to also put aside 10%, 20%. In our company, we set aside 10% for our buffer. And we've been doing it since the dark days when our studio almost went bankrupt, almost, right? And, that's the lesson we learned at that time. But you need to shore up a buffer. And it dovetails neatly into the next one, which is secure funding ahead of the recession. If you do not have much savings in the business to create that 6 months buffer, see if taking out a business loan is a good idea. If you do secure funding, remember that it is to be put aside for a rainy day. If you get the loan at a low interest rate, it is worth the extra expense to just have the money sitting in the bank ready to bail you out if things slow down drastically. So if you have not saved a 6 months buffer, then consider taking out a business loan, right? A business loan at a low rate if you can. And then you should not use that money. Put it aside. Yes, it's okay. You're going to be paying interest on that. And it's just going to be sitting there. But you know what? With business, you never know what will happen tomorrow. A business humming along, nicely on the highway, you're cruising in your car, and then suddenly a tire bursts or the engine overheats and then you need to pull over to the shoulder, right? So anything can happen to bring your business to the hard shoulder, to the side of the road, to, a complete stop. That's when you need cash flow. That's when you need money to actually, maybe to pay yourself, to pay your employees, to pay business expenses, to pay rent. More importantly, to pay for marketing and advertising to bring in the revenue. Okay, so the next one, audit your marketing channels. Okay, yeah, these points are not in any particular order, right? Audit your marketing channels. When your marketing budget is limited, it pays to be ruthless with whom you target and where you do it. Not all channels are created equal, and each one would have strengths and weaknesses that affect your marketing. Spend time to identify the best channel for your business and focus your marketing on it. And you got to be ruthless. Maybe you'll love LinkedIn. You'll love the engagement. You'll love the way the platform feels, the app. But if it's not the right platform for you to do the things that you need to do to keep your business afloat, then put it to the side for the moment. Maybe visit it occasionally. Focus on the channel that really matters. Maybe Twitter is the channel where you're really making some meaningful connections, and that's where you're actually getting your leads from, your targeted leads. Then focus on LinkedIn, right? Focus on Twitter, move away from LinkedIn, or vice versa. In any case, you need to really understand the pulse of your channels. Time and again, I see founders, business owners spending inordinate amount of time on channels that don't really move their business needle, but that those that they personally like, have some personal preference. You got to be ruthless. You got to be businesslike, because your business must take priority now, especially as recession looms. You got to be ruthless. Okay, next one. Look for partnerships. Now would be a great time to reach out to potential partners that either complement your service or add value to it. In fact, you should even consider partnering with your competitors to create a win-win scenario. Okay, the first one, which is potential partners who they have services or products that complement yours or that enhance or add value. That you understand that. But what about potential competitors? Partnering with competitors? How does that work, right? I'll give you an example. Okay, there is a street called the Cal Laurel Street in a city in Spain called Lona, right? Logrono. This is the capital of Rioja, and this city is famous for, of course, Rioja red wine, but also their pinchos or tapas. So it's a great culture in Spain where people go to a small bar. Usually they don't even have seating; they just stand at the counter. They get a drink and they order one of these small little tapas, right? Food, finger food. Now, in this street, there are over 50 of such bars crammed cheek to cheek. And they're all, of course, competing for the same audience. Now, you would think that a small street, it's 2 blocks, probably, maybe less than that, 50 different bars with tapas. Just drink red wine and tapas. They must be having fierce competition, right? No. These guys have figured out a way that everyone gets a piece of the business. Everyone is successful. It's a win-win scenario. So what they did, they came to an agreement that each of these bars would specialize in 1, 2, or 3 specific style of tapas, right? So I maybe would say, okay, I would focus on only 3 types of tapas. One is bread with a little bit of octopus or squid on it and an onion ring. Another, maybe anchovies with a couple of olives. And then a third is maybe, I don't know, a little bit of avocado with a shrimp on it. That's it. These are the 3 tapas that I will offer in my bar. That's it. And then the next one may have bread with roast ham and cheese on top, so on and so forth. Now, then what happens is that the locals and, of course, tourists, they hop from bar to bar, trying out different. And, of course, they kept their prices reasonable. They had a pricing agreement, not like a cartel. They didn't fix prices, but they don't undercut each other, right? They have a standard kind of pricing. Average, you're looking at 1 to 3 euros for, actually 3 to 5 euros for a tapas. And the red wine, 1 to 3 euros, depending on if it's a Reserva or a Crianza. Rioja wine, of course, world famous. So by doing that, the locals hop from bar to bar, trying out different things. Everybody gets business, and there's no need to fiercely compete. So that kind of a thing, maybe in your industry segment, look around, reach out to your competitors, and offer ideas on how maybe you all can work together to get a share of the pie during a recession. Okay, next, reinvent your product or service. Changing mindsets and emotional landscape during a recession may mean that your PMF, that is product market fit, may not hold out and may buckle, taking your business down. Think outside the box to see if your product or service needs to be reinvented to align with the changing tide. This is a very interesting one because a product market fit is fundamental to any business venture, right? Before everything, before even pricing or goals, a product market fit. Because if you don't have a product market fit, then the rest of it is all just a waste. It's just an uphill battle. It's like Sisyphus, the ancient story of Sisyphus. This guy's, he's pushing up. I think it's Greek. Yes, it's a Greek mythological story where this guy is cursed, right? I think his name is Sisyphus. Is cursed, and he pushes a boulder up a steep hill, and then it just rolls back. And then he pushes it up again. It keeps rolling back, and he does this for eternity. I don't know the specifics of the story, but this is what you would be doing if you don't have a product market fit. People, pay attention to your product market fit, right? In fact, I think I need to tattoo it on my arm. And so that, when I coach, mentor, and mentor founders, I simply show my arm and say, product market fit. Always be thinking about product market fit. What does that mean? It means, is it the right product for the right market at the right time? Because sometimes you may have a great product for the right kind of market, but the timing is wrong. Like, for example, a recession. Or you may have the right product, but the wrong audience at the right time. It's a combination of permutation. So always think about your product market fit. Does your product really fit the market at this time? If it does not, then go back to one of the points I said earlier, which is, reevaluating, being flexible, pivoting, right? And this is what it is. Reinvent your product or service or completely change it if it's not a product market fit. Next, create a content base for your brand. Irrespective of what kind of market segment you are in and what kind of product or service you sell, it is always a good idea to create a content base online that attracts your audience. Now, content can be anything from a blog on your website or a YouTube channel like this one, or a LinkedIn or Twitter business page, or an Instagram or TikTok profile. It's anywhere where you create content that your audience will find interesting and engaging. Remember, the content base is not about sales messages. It is about giving value to your target audience. Almost 100%, 98% of business owners, I'm talking about business owners that don't have marketing teams, where the founders are doing their own marketing, their content is usually just sales. Buy this, buy from us, here is a discount, here's a sale, come check out our product, check out our service, buy from us constantly. And guess what? No one cares, right? Yes, they will have a few takers, but that audience is already at the end of their audience journey. And I've created many videos on the idea of audience journey and why it is important, right? You need to understand your audience journey. And sales messages, hard sales messages, are only applicable to people who are already at the end of that journey. And you may have, of course, people already at that end of the journey by themselves without your prompting them, and they're ready to buy your product or service, and good. But typically, unless your product is an essential product like food, shelter, or something like that, right? Health or whatever, you got to educate and take your audience on a journey towards that sale. Therefore, you need to create content that educates and informs, that engages, that entertains your target audience and leads them on that path, that journey towards that final sale. And, don't bust out your sales message in your marketing. Use the 80-20 principle. 80% of your content and marketing should be not sales. 20% of your marketing, of your content should be sales. All right, the final one, number 20. Get business insurance if you don't already have one. An expense that is worth its weight in gold is business insurance. Not just indemnity and liability insurance, but also business interruption insurance. There are lots of companies that do that. For example, we use Hiscox. They're pretty low cost. If you offer, look, I'm not a tax advisor or a legal advisor, anything of that sort. I'm just telling you that you need to mitigate the risk to your business through an insurance. It's just like an auto insurance, like a home insurance or whatever, right? You need insurance. Get insurance right now, especially when it's recession. It's not an expense. It may be the difference between survival and oblivion, when things go wrong. Get general liability insurance. Get also professional insurance if you're offering professional services. Even for things like libel, slander, people may sue you for that, especially when you're marketing online or you're creating content online. Get that. It's probably worth, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks a month, but it's a good 50 bucks a month. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So those are the 20 kind of, this cannot be an exhaustive list, right? This is probably just scratching the surface. There's many more things you can do to ensure that your business is recession proof. But I hope these things get you started. They get you thinking, right? Now, I just spoke briefly about each of these, and they should be good enough, to get started. But if you want more details about each of these points and how to execute them with examples and all, I will leave a link below. It's an ebook that you can download that has more details of each of these points and some suggestions, some resources, some links to, software or tools that you can use and so on and so forth. All right. Now, let me know if I missed anything on this list and leave a comment below if you have a tip that would help business owners, founders kind of be recession proof. And if you have any questions about any of these points, leave a link below or leave a comment below. Ask me, hit me up on Twitter or ask me on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn and ask me a question. All right. Till the next video, take care and prosper.